One minute I was adjusting my veil and admiring the bridal glow on my face, and the next I was standing behind a slightly open door, paralyzed as I heard my husband-to-be kissing another woman and confessing he didn't love me. Welcome to another gripping African folktale. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a story that will leave you speechless. The day had started like a movie. My wedding morning was filled with the chaos and glamour typical of a Lagos high society wedding. The Emerald Pavilion in Lekki was buzzing. Decorators were adding finishing touches to the floral arch makeup artists were everywhere. Photographers were tiptoeing around in silence, capturing the elegance. The scent of roses, hairspray, and freshly baked pastries from the catering team filled the air. I was sitting in the spacious bridal suite upstairs, surrounded by my bridesmaids. Everything was beautiful. Everything was perfect on the outside. Yet, deep down, I had a strange knot in my stomach. Something didn't feel right. My spirit was uneasy, but I dismissed it as wedding nerves. My name is Cynthia Peters, and this was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I come from one of the wealthiest families in Ikoyi. My father, Mr. Benjamin Peters, owns multiple estates in Abuja and Lagos. Everyone knew our name. And when I fell in love with Henry Williams, polished, ambitious, and strikingly handsome, it seemed like God had given me the perfect man. We met at a real estate networking event. He was charming, quick-witted, and wore confidence like a fitted suit. Within months, he was already having lunch with my parents, talking politics with my father, and holding my hand like I was his treasure. So when I found out I was pregnant 3 months ago, and he proposed with a ring that nearly blinded me under candlelight, I said yes without hesitation. My parents didn't blink before financing the wedding. After all, Henry had potential, and to them, that was enough. But the truth, I should have looked deeper. That morning, my gown zipper got stuck, one of those minor wedding delays that everyone thinks is part of the drama. While waiting for my stylist to return, I decided to step out and breathe. The entire suite was filled with makeup artists, camera crew, stylists, and bridesmaids asking for my opinion on centerpieces, dance songs, and flower girls. I needed silence. I needed air. I took the long corridor toward the balcony at the far end of the floor. My heels echoed against the polished tiles. My phone was ringing again. My mother probably, or the planner. I ignored it. As I walked past the next bridal suite, I heard voices. The door was halfway open, and that's when I heard his voice. Henry, that smooth, confident voice that had comforted me so many nights. At first, I smiled. I was about to push the door open, to tease him for hiding away. But then I heard a woman laugh softly. It was sultry, familiar. Tara Lawson. I felt my heart drop. Tara had always been too close for comfort. She called Henry her cousin, but her hands lingered too long when they hugged. Her perfume always filled his car. Once I saw a picture of them at a beach resort in Ape from 3 years ago, just the two of them. I'd asked him then, "How come you two look more like lovers than cousins?" He'd laughed and brushed it off. "Jealousy doesn't suit you, babe." But now, as I leaned closer to the door, what I heard confirmed everything I had been trying to ignore. "Baby, you know this isn't what I want," Henry's voice murmured. "Then don't go through with it," Tara replied, her voice soft and bitter. "You think I want to marry her? I have to. She's pregnant, Tara, and her father basically owns Lagos. This wedding is my ticket. I'll marry her, build my name, and after that, I'll come back for you. Just give me 2 years, and everything we ever dreamed of will be ours." I couldn't breathe. Then came the sound I'll never forget for the rest of my life. They kissed. It was deep, passionate, familiar. Not a goodbye kiss. A promise. A kiss of loyalty. I stumbled backward, quietly, almost missing a step. My legs felt like they couldn't carry me anymore. My stomach turned. My fingers trembled so hard I dropped my phone. I bent to pick it up as quickly as I could, then tiptoed back to my suite like a fugitive in my own story. The girls were laughing and taking selfies when I walked in. No one noticed the tears already forming in my eyes. I locked the door behind me and walked to the mirror. There she was, me, the bride, wearing an 1.2 million designer gown from London, my edges perfectly laid, my jewelry shimmering, my baby bump carefully hidden under layers of satin and lace. I looked perfect, but I felt like someone had ripped my soul out. The planner knocked. "Cynthia, it's time. The guests are seated. Are you ready?" I wiped my tears, adjusted my veil, and forced a smile. "I'm ready." But I wasn't. Still, I walked down that aisle. Cameras flashed. The band played. Guests clapped. I smiled like a woman in love. Henry stood at the altar, looking handsome, confident, deceptive. I took his hand. We said our vows. I said, "I do." So did he. But the moment his lips brushed mine, I knew it wasn't love. It was business. But what Henry didn't know, what no one knew, was that I had a secret too, and it was about to change everything. The hall erupted with applause as Henry kissed me, but all I could feel was betrayal brushing against my lips. I stood there in my wedding gown, beneath chandeliers and camera flashes, smiling like a woman in love, when in truth I was a woman plotting vengeance. Everyone thought they were witnessing a perfect union. The guests, celebrities, politicians, and socialites, were smiling, clapping, whispering about how beautiful I looked and how lucky Henry was to be marrying the Peters' only daughter. My father gave a speech that shook the room. "Today, I hand over my most precious gift, my Cynthia, to a man I trust with her life." Trust. The irony nearly choked me. I looked at Henry. He held my hand with so much fake gentleness. He leaned in, pretending to care. My bridesmaids were beaming. The MC cracked jokes. The DJ played our favorite couple song. But I wasn't hearing any of it. I was watching Tara, sitting confidently in the third row in a velvet wine gown, her legs crossed, eyes fixed on Henry like he still belonged to her. And maybe he did, but Henry didn't know something crucial. He thought I was pregnant, but the truth was I had lost the baby 2 weeks before the wedding. Yes, I had a miscarriage, alone, in the hospital, while Henry was in South Africa for work. I had cried for days, held my stomach, and wished it was a dream. But when I came out of it, I realized something. The baby was never what held him to me. It was my surname. It was my father's wealth. It was power. I had planned to tell him after the wedding. I had typed out a message several times. But after what I heard him say to Tara in that hotel room, after that kiss, I decided he didn't deserve the truth. He would marry me thinking he had won, thinking he had trapped me with pregnancy. But I had my own plans now. At the reception, everything glowed. The lights, the stage, the dance floor, the smiles. Henry and I had our first dance. I looked into his eyes and played my part so well, even I almost believed it. He whispered into my ear, "I can't wait to build this life with you." I smiled back and said, "Me too," but in my head, I was already building walls between us. Mentally, emotionally, financially. The moment I heard those words he spoke to Tara, something inside me snapped. I knew I could never love him the same again. What I didn't know was how fast the cracks in our marriage would begin to show. By the third week, he had resumed his late nights, meetings, trips, calls at odd hours. And Tara, she had suddenly started working with one of the companies under my father's real estate firm, the Hills Consortium. I knew Henry had used his influence to get her in. They thought I was blind, but I was watching everything. Then one day it happened. I walked into the guest room at home and found Henry's iPad open on the table. I didn't mean to check it, but the screen lit up, and there it was, a message from Tara. I miss your body. Last night was heaven. Imagine if we didn't have to sneak around. My chest burned. My fingers shook. Another message came in. She doesn't suspect, right? God knows if I were in her shoes, I'd be paranoid by now. Henry replied, "Relax, babe. Cynthia's naive. All she cares about is being a wife. And anyway, once her father puts me in charge of the Banana Island project, we'll be good. Trust me." Naive. That was the last straw. The very next day, I visited my father in his office. My dad and I were close, closer than most daughters and fathers. He raised me like a son, taught me business, taught me the game. So when I told him, "Daddy, I don't want Henry managing any of the real estate portfolios. Let's keep things private for now," he didn't even ask questions. He nodded. "If that's how you feel, Cynthia, I'll respect that." Next, I reached out to my lawyer. I asked for a prenup addendum. Quietly, legally, everything in my name remained in my name. Any access Henry would have to finances or properties would be under supervised approval. My lawyer raised a brow, but didn't question it. By the time Henry started making calls about the Banana Island deal, it was already too late. Then, just as he was spiraling, I dropped the bomb. We were having dinner at a new restaurant in Victoria Island. He had been laughing about some property opportunity in Dubai. I sat quietly, sipping my Chapman, then said it calmly. "By the way, I'm not pregnant anymore." His fork dropped. He stared at me, confused. "What?" I smiled. "I lost the baby 2 weeks before the wedding." He blinked rapidly. "Why didn't you tell me?" I leaned in. "Because I knew you'd cancel the wedding. And you see, Henry, I couldn't let you win." He sat back in silence. The color drained from his face. I wiped my lips with the napkin. "You thought I was the naive one? You were just a greedy little boy who thought he could outsmart a Peters." He didn't say a word. He just stared at me. But that wasn't the worst of it, because I had recorded every message, every chat, even his conversation with Tara from the hotel that day. My friend had gotten access to the suite cameras through the event planner's office. And now I was holding all of it. Evidence, power, and revenge. It had been 7 months since my wedding to Henry Williams. 7 months of lies. 7 months of Tara acting like a shadow in my marriage. 7 months of fake smiles, business meetings, dinner parties, and calculated silence. I played my role like a seasoned actress. The perfect Lagos wife. Stylish, graceful, submissive, and dangerous when crossed. Henry thought I had cooled off. He believed we had moved past the baby loss. He even started to talk about trying for another child. He didn't know I had already made up my mind. I was never going to carry a child for him, not after what I knew, not after what I had planned. Henry had been pestering me for weeks, begging me to let him speak on stage, to represent the family. I agreed. I told him I'd even introduce him myself as my loving husband and partner. He smiled like a fool. Tara would also be in attendance, of course. She now worked in our HR department, strategically placed by Henry. I didn't fire her. No, I wanted her to see the day I dismantled her dreams. The ballroom sparkled. Live jazz. Waiters in white gloves. Red carpet. Photographers shouting names. Everyone dressed to kill. I wore a midnight blue gown, sleek and regal. My makeup? Flawless. My hair? Slicked back. My mood? Cold as ice. Henry held my hand, smiling like he had Finally won. But he didn't know what I had in my clutch bag. Two things. One, a USB drive containing video and audio of his private conversation with Tara on our wedding day. Two, printed screenshots of their recent chats with dates, emojis, locations, and all. And the best part, I had already shared them with a top blogger and influencer on a timed post set to go live the moment Henry stepped on stage. The event MC called my name. I walked gracefully to the podium. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we're not only celebrating business milestones, we're celebrating the strength of partnerships, of loyalty, of truth. I smiled and turned toward Henry. I'd like to invite my husband, Henry Williams, to say a few words. The hall clapped. Henry walked to the stage confidently, adjusted the mic, smiled. But then people's phones started buzzing. Heads turned. Murmurs began. It started at one table, then another, then the back of the hall. I watched the confusion spread like wildfire, and then a scream. Oh my God! Tara, seated near the front, stood abruptly, her hands over her mouth, because on the giant LED screen behind the podium, the video began to play. You think I want to marry her? I have to. She's pregnant, Tara, and her father owns half of Ikoyi. Gasps, phones up, guests watching, recording. Henry turned to the screen slowly, horror filling his face. Give me 2 years. I'll come back for you. Then the audio ended. I stepped back to the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the man who married me for money and cheated on me with his cousin before the reception even started. The silence in that ballroom could have swallowed an entire city. Tara ran out, holding her heels. Henry looked like he had been struck by lightning. And me, I stood there, calm, unmoved. Tonight is the beginning of a new chapter. I continued. And just to be clear, all access Mr. Williams once had to my family's assets is now revoked. Legally, emotionally, completely. The hall clapped. It was wild, shocking, unforgettable. 2 days later, Henry tried calling me. I didn't pick up. He came to my family's home in Ikoyi. He wasn't let past the gate. His belongings were packed and sent to his friend's place in Lekki. His access to my father's companies? Frozen. Tara? She resigned via email that same week and vanished from Lagos social circles. I didn't file for divorce immediately. No, I waited. Let him stew. Let him feel the shame. Let him tell people why the powerful Cynthia Peters exposed him like a dog at an event. Eventually, I filed on grounds of deceit, infidelity, and emotional manipulation. He signed without a fight. I launched my own real estate investment group, CP Realty Solutions, and hosted my first solo gala as a newly divorced woman. No husband, no scandal, just power. A journalist asked me that night, Cynthia, do you regret anything? I smiled and said, only that I didn't hear that conversation sooner.